Good morning, everybody. How are all my grandkids and nieces and friends, all you courageous boys and girls out there? Today, we are going to be looking at a new time in Israel's life. There was a season of Moses rescuing them out of slavery from Egypt. And coming into the promised land with Joshua and fighting to take the promised land as God had promised them, and they took the land, and the land was divided up between the different tribes. In Judges chapter 2, which is the book after Joshua, it tells us what happened after that. Because we know that Joshua's not going to live forever, is he? And that's what happens in chapter 2, verse 6. It tells us that after Joshua sent the people away, each of the tribes left to take possession of the land allotted to them. So they were assigned certain areas for each tribe. And the Israelites served the Lord throughout the lifetime of Joshua and the leaders who outlived him, those who had seen all the great things the Lord had done for Israel. Joshua, son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, died at age of 110. They buried him in the land he had been allocated at Timnath-Serah in the hill country of Ephraim, north of Mount Gash. Now, the next generation that grew up, they did not acknowledge the Lord. They did not remember the mighty acts that the Lord had done. So there was a failure for one generation to pass down to the next generation all the things that the Lord had done. And so what happened was the Israelites did evil in the sight of the Lord, and they began to worship the idols. The false gods are called idols because there is only one true God, isn't there? And of course this made the Lord angry, and so he would give them over to their depravity, and they would be conquered by their enemies. Over and over again this happened. And then they would cry out to God, and God would raise up a judge that would rescue them from their enemies. And after that judge died, the people would forget about the Lord, and they would worship the idols and intermarry with the people that were not believers, and they became very, very evil. And so the Lord would give them over to their enemies, and then they would cry out to the Lord, and the Lord would raise up another judge. So that's why this book is called Judges. This was the time in their period where there were people that God would call to go rescue the children of Israel. Now, we're going to skip on over. You can read, there's obviously every word in the Bible has meaning and purpose, but we're just going to go ahead and skip over to one particular judge. And this happens to be a woman. She was actually a prophet. So let's skip over to Judges 4. And after Ehud's death, he was a judge who rescued them. And so after his death, the Israelites again did evil in the Lord's sight. So the Lord turned them over to King Jabin of Hazor, a Canaanite king. The commander of his army was Sisera, who lived in Harosh Hagoyim. Sisera, who had 900 iron chariots, ruthlessly oppressed the Israelites for 20 years. Then the people cried out to the Lord for help. Do you think that the Lord's going to answer them? Yes, yes, yes. God wants to deliver his people, doesn't he? Deborah was the wife of Lepidith, was a prophet who was judging Israel at that time. She would sit under the palm of Deborah between Ramah and Bethel in the hill country of Ephraim, and the Israelites would go to her for judgment. One day, to help them make decisions and things. One day she sent for Barak, son of Abinoam, who lived in Kadesh in the land of Naphtali. She said to him, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, commands you. Call out 10,000 warriors from the tribes of Naphtali and Zebulun at Mount Tabor. And I will call out Sisera, commander of Jabin's army, along with his chariots and warriors, to the Kishon River. There I will give you victory over him." Barak told her, "I will go, but only if you will go with me." So she had heard from the Lord, and when you hear from the Lord, you know what the Lord is saying is true. But Barak was kind of scared, I guess. And so she said, "Very well, I will go with you, but you will receive no honor in this venture, for the Lord's victory over Sisera will be at the hands of a woman." So Deborah went with Barak to Kadesh, and at Kadesh Barak called together the tribes of Zebulun and Naphtali, and 10,000 warriors went up with him. Deborah also went with him. Let's skip down to verse 14. Then Deborah said to Barak, "Get ready. This is the day the Lord will give you victory over Sisera, for the Lord is marching ahead of you." So Barak led his 10,000 warriors down the slopes of Mount Tabor into battle. When Barak attacked, the Lord threw Sisera and all his chariots and warriors into a panic. Sisera leaped down from his chariot and escaped on foot. Then Barak chased the chariots and the enemy army all the way to Harosheth Hagoyim, killing all of Sisera's warriors. Not a single one was left alive. Meanwhile, Sisera, the leader, ran to the tent of Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite, because Heber's family was on friendly terms with King Jabin of Hazor. Jael went out to meet Sisera and said to him, "Come into my tent, sir. Come in. Don't be afraid." So he went into her tent, and she covered him with a blanket. "Please give me some water," he said. "I'm thirsty." So she gave him milk from a leather bag and covered him again. "Stand at the door of the tent," he told her. "If anybody comes and asks, and ask you if there is anyone here, say no." So the commander is very scared. All of his warriors have been killed, and this woman has taken them into her tent. But when Sisera fell asleep from exhaustion, Jael quietly crept up to him, and she killed him. When Barak came looking for Sisera, Jael went out to meet him. She said, "Come, I will show you the man you are looking for." So he followed her into the tent and found Sisera lying there dead. So on that day, Israel saw God defeat Jabin, the Canaanite king, and from that time on, Israel became stronger and stronger against King Jabin until they finally destroyed him. So in this story today, God used two women, and they had to be very brave. Deborah had to hear God accurately and say, "Hey, we're going into battle, we're going to fight, and God's going to give you the victory." She believed God. And then when Barak, he also had to have courage, but he wasn't exactly totally confident without Deborah, which is okay. You know, sometimes you need support from other people. But God actually said through Deborah that he was going to give the victory to a woman that day. So another woman had to be very brave. And when the enemy came to her camp, her tent, of course he was much stronger than her, but she basically, he believed that she was his friend, and so she was able to go ahead and kill the enemy. And from that day forward, they gained strength, and they were able to completely overcome their enemy and to be free again. And they began to worship and serve the Lord again. And all of chapter 5 is the song of Deborah. They made up a song after their victory. And so, you know, you can make up songs too. When you have victory in your life and you do something really good, you can make up a song about it too. But you can read the song in chapter 5 of Judges. And the last verse says, Lord, verse 31, Lord, may all your enemies die like Sisera, but may those who love you rise like the sun in all its power. Then there was peace in the land for 40 years. So they were able to live in peace. Okay, guys, I am praying for you today that you'll have courage. And we do not fight against flesh and blood, but against the evil things that the enemy tries to trick us into as well. And so may you have perfect victory today over everything in your life. And know that God is with you. And we keep our eyes on Him, don't we? Yes, we do. I love you all. Bye.